Hi, and thanks for tuning in. It's the 5th of May, 2020. We're right in the middle of a pandemic here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Bucks County, Montgomery County, and Philadelphia County all border each other, and they have the highest rate of COVID-19 infection right now. The governor has, as of May 1st, allowed all construction to resume. And so we're on our way to Warrington, Pennsylvania to replace a garage door opener. I'll show you how I'm keeping my customers and myself safe while still earning a living. And we'll do it right after this. Okay, so this is the current unit that's here. This is a Liftmaster. It's an older unit. It's chain driven. Well, it was. You can see the chain is hanging here. There's a small sprocket like a bicycle has up on top of the unit, and it snapped off. Therefore, the chain became loose, and now they can't get the door closed. It also has sensors here that prevent the door from closing if there's something obstructing it. And this here is the button that controls the operation of the door. So we're going to change it all out. Okay, so let's take a look at the top of the Liftmaster, and you'll see the sprocket that broke off. It was connected right here at the top to the motor, and that's what the chain hooked to. What you want to do is open up the light compartments where the light bulbs are, and one side will have controls on it for the sensors as well as the operation button that's over by the door into the house. So what I'm doing here is just taking the light bulbs out, setting them aside so they don't get broken. This one on this side is a little warmer than the one on the other side, so I'm going to let it cool a little bit. And you want to climb up here, and you want to take a picture of how it's wired currently, paying special attention to what color wires are in which connectors. A lot of the wires will have a red line or a black line on it indicating the difference between a white. So as you can see, this is what it looks like. Make sure you disconnect the power to the unit before disconnecting any of the wires to avoid electrical shock. And then you're just going to push the little release buttons in and pull the wires out. A couple of them might be wired together. If they are, leave them that way because they belong together, and they'll belong together in the next unit as well. Now if you're running all new wires, then it doesn't matter, but when this is pre-wired like this, I generally reuse the same wires because there's nothing wrong with them. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is you have to disconnect the angle irons so that you can lower this unit down. If you're installing a unit and you're not replacing one, you're not going to put these angle irons on the ceiling and mount it to the structure until you figure out where in the space your motor is going to end up in the room. So I'll tell you later where you're going to do that. What I'm doing is I'm taking the nuts off, but I'm leaving the bolts in. This way it'll still hang there while I go around to the other side and get the other nut off. When I take the bolts out, I'll be ready to lower it. I'll put myself in a position where I can lower it safely. Now what's important is you have something below it that you can sit it on. You can sit it onto a ladder, a trash can, anything that's going to allow you to sit it down without dropping it to the floor. And prepare for that. Just, you know you're going to need it. Have something set up already so that when you're ready to use it, you can just slide it into position. The next step is to remove the clevis pin from the curved door arm. Now, both the top and the bottom is held on by a clevis pin, and there's usually a little ring, as you see right here, like a key ring. You just twist it off of there, and that clevis pin will pull out. I always save these. You never know when you're going to need them. They're very handy to have in the truck. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is remove the head assembly, which is also held on by a clevis pin. You remove the snap ring from one side of it, just like before. Pull out the clevis pin, and that will release the entire head assembly. Now be careful, because nothing is holding this anywhere at this point. It could slide out of there and fall off the trash can on the other side. So make sure that you support it, and you could take the whole unit down. It's not connected to anything anymore, and just go ahead and sit it off to the side. You won't need this again, and an easy way to get rid of it is to just cut it up with an angle grinder and throw it in your trash. And what I'm showing you here is that I'm keeping the clevis pin that came out of there. It's a little bit longer and definitely worth keeping in the service van. The unit I'll be installing is a Chamberlain B1381, a B1381. It is a belt-driven, battery backup 1 1/4 horsepower unit with a wireless key entry. Very whisper quiet. Okay, so the first steps to assembling your new garage door opener is the track. Notice there's a slot in here. That's for a pulley. That has to face left and right. Do not have the opening facing up. And then you just take all these little pieces and they slide together. They don't click lock together or anything. They just slide together. And you can pull them back apart. They are all identical except for the first one that has the slot for the pulley in it. Slide them all together, and if you're having trouble doing that, you can use a rubber mallet and force them together that way. Alright, step 2 is going to put the trolley on the track, and this emergency release that you see here has to point down and towards the motor, and you just slide it on here, and then there's a little bolt and a nut that drops in behind it to prevent it from sliding back off. Okay, after the trolley's on the track, this last piece, once you bang this in, it's going to lock itself in there, and you're not going to be able to pull it back out. It locks in tight. And then this whole thing just connects to the motor assembly. These 2 1/2-inch bolts come out, and then the last piece that you put onto the track has 2 bolt holes on it that align perfectly with this. Just line those up and tighten the bolts down securely. The belt that comes with this unit is 7 feet long. It fits Chamberlain, Liftmaster, and the Craftsman units. Model number 001A7904-2, and it runs for about $50 if you need to replace it. Okay, a couple things to pay attention to here. This is probably the easiest part, but there's a few things you need to do. When you put the belt through the rectangular hole where the pulley goes, make sure that the bumpy side of the belt, the teeth, are facing the pulley. This way it grips into the grooves in the pulley on both ends. There's a bolt, nut, and lock washer. Put that on the assembly and tighten it down. Now you'll notice there's a red and yellow handled screwdriver sitting down in the hole about 6 inches on this side of the pulley, and that is there so that the trolley cannot get pushed past the screwdriver. It's important that you put that there because you don't want the trolley to slide all the way over to the pulley. Now pay attention to this connection. It's actually 2 movements to connect it. It actually hooks in and under. So let me show you it again. What you do is you take that hook and you lay it down in the hole and then twist it up, and it hooks it in and under. And then just make sure that the belt is sitting on the pulley like that, and then we're going to connect it to the motor assembly. So take a screwdriver and bend this tab up that is just before the pulley assembly. This here is a spring-loaded bolt. You actually have to thread the spring off of the bolt in order to put this together. Now, this here is a flat part on the bolt. Can you see it? It has to face away from the track, and there's a flat spot in the hole in the trolley that makes it so you can easily slide it in. Then just thread the spring back on, just about 4 or 5 threads, not much more than that. Okay, think back to when you were a kid and you either had to change the chain on your bike, or maybe your dad did, or your mom, or who knows who. You got the master link that goes in, and you got the piece that goes on that binds them together, and then you got the lock. And the lock has an open end and a closed end. The open end slides over the first pin, and then you drop it over the second pin and squeeze them together, and it locks into place. As you can see, I'm having a little bit of trouble with it. It's small, my fingers are big. You work at it, it's not that difficult, and once it locks in, you won't have a problem with it.
Didn't you forget to tell them something, Mr. Bob?
Oscar, you saved me again. Folks, make sure all the teeth to the belt are facing into the track and that the belt is not twisted. Otherwise, you'll have to take it all apart again. Oscar, thanks so much for looking out, man. I appreciate it.
No, you're welcome, Mr. Bob. That's why I'm here. That's why you bring me along.
This spring is to be put on hand tight only. You'll release the spring and it'll add the correct amount of tension automatically. So just hand tight, folks. Alright folks, take a flathead screwdriver and there's a little groove that you sit it in and you listen, you'll hear it release. And you just barely turn that nut, it releases that spring, and the tension is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Couldn't be easier than that. This little plastic shroud fits over the pulley on the motor assembly, protecting the belt and the pulley from getting dirt and debris in it, as well as maybe your fingers if you're up there monkeying around. And it's just held on by 3 Phillips screws. Alright, so next you're going to find out how high the door goes when it's curling around the top of the track. I found that point to be right here, so I put a box under the door to hold it there. This is the highest point that the edge of the door goes while it's being pushed upward to be opened. And then using a level, make sure you're at the top of the door and to the wall, and the level is perfectly level, and you make a mark on the underside of the level with your pencil, so that mark on the wall represents the highest point of the door. And then you put the bracket 2 inches above that.
Right in the middle of where this is. So we're going to take this out, take this off, and mount it right there. Right in the wall, right above that.
Now it's time to lift the motor and track assembly into place. Sit the motor assembly on top of something, a ladder or a trash can like I'm doing here, and then the track connects to the headpiece using a clevis pin. Now install the split key ring through the hole in the clevis pin to hold that assembly all together. And let me show you what it looks like. I'm going to take the entire assembly and sit it on top of this ladder. This way it's a little bit closer to the angle irons because I need to suspend it from the ceiling. Now, could have you done this in the step prior instead of the trash can? Yeah, probably, but you leave yourself such a small area for this to sit on that when you were attaching the track to the headpiece, you could have knocked it off the ladder a little easier, so I wouldn't recommend that. This Chamberlain unit came with 2 pieces of light gauge steel angle iron. I believe it was like 2 feet long. I ended up cutting it in half because it was too long the way it was shipped for this particular purpose. When you install the motor, you want the track to be on a slight incline, probably like 2 inches higher than where it connects to the header. So I shorten these up so that I can push the unit up higher and get that incline that I need. Never install the track level. It's too much stress on the door. Suspension time. We got to suspend this from the ceiling. I'm fortunate I already have angle iron hanging there from the previous unit that I removed. You may not. If you do not have angle iron there, just lift your unit up, see roundabouts where it's going to be in the room, and mark the ceiling so you can attach some angle iron into the structure. In my case, it's already there. So what I've done is this unit comes with a couple pieces of angle iron. I cut one in half because they were too long. And I attached it to the fins that stick out of the top of the motor assembly with a bolt. What you just saw me do was bolt it to a piece of the angle iron that's hanging from the ceiling. Once you get one in, you can go around safely to the other side without the unit falling, and you can level it up. Now, it's important that the unit is level left to right, but it's not supposed to be level from the door to the unit. There should be almost a 2-inch incline there. So make sure, you don't have to put a level on it, but make sure that you're a little bit higher than where it attaches to the header above the door. This way it takes the strain off of the unit and puts it evenly between the unit and the door. I'm going to give you a close-up look here at the top of the unit. You can see that my piece of angle iron is being secured to the fin that is part of the motor assembly. You'll notice that the fin has multiple holes in it, and that is for adaptability, so that it can adapt to your situation. So depending on where you need to put your angle iron, you may need to pick a different hole in order to level your unit up. You can use any one of them. Once the unit is suspended and level, go ahead and tighten all the bolts in every piece of angle iron so that it's nice and secure and doesn't vibrate or move too much during operations. Okay, for a quick recap, I'm going to show you the left side of this unit. And the reason I'm showing it to you is because the angle iron is attached to the rear hole on the left side and the front hole on the right side. And I needed to do that in order to suspend this and keep it level. Sometimes you have to choose a different hole, and this is a prime example. So I just wanted you to see that real quick. Alright, so this is the easiest part of the entire job. All trolleys have an emergency release handle on them, so if the power goes out, you're not trapped in the garage, and you can pull the release and open the door manually. They all come with this red string and red handle. All you do is put a double knot in it up at the top on the trolley so that you can release the door. Now this is a very, very important part of the installation. The bracket that attaches to the door has to be dead center in the door. because there's structure in the door so that you can mount it there. The rest of the door is probably hollow. Now, this particular door has this long vertical bracket on it that is in the way of me installing the bracket that goes with this unit. So I have to remove this. You probably won't run into this on your door. If you do, you can take it out. Just make sure that any bolts or screws that you remove that are holding hinges or other components on the door, such as that top metal rail, get reinstalled. I'm killing two birds with one stone, so to speak here. I'm using the bolt that holds that top metal support rail in place to also hold the bracket. So it's going through the bracket, through that top metal rail, back into the structure of the door. Now you're going to install the curved door arm, which is a two-piece unit, and you're going to take the long piece with the majority of the holes facing down towards the floor, and you're going to attach it to the trolley with a clevis pin. Okay, now with the boomerang-shaped part of the door arm assembly, that gets connected to the door using a clevis pin as well. But when you connect the two pieces together, they have to be bolted with two bolts in two separate holes. It's also very important to note lock washers are used on these bolts so that it prevents the nuts from backing off over time. Keep those fingers crossed and hope for the best, because right now you're going to pull that release, the emergency release, and you're going to open the door manually. And it better not hit the track. Ah, sweet success. Alright, so now we're up to the part where we're going to wire all the components to the motor assembly. This here is the wall-mounted switch that controls both the door operation as well as the light. This actually connects to the wall pretty easily. That bottom screw just gets put into the wall, and then this unit slides over the bottom screw, and then there's an access panel in the front that you pop up so that you can put the top screw in. There's two screws on the back side of this, labeled W and R, stands for white and red. Just hook up the wires to the respective colors, the red wire to the R and the white to the W. There's also a small little notch on all four sides of these units so that you can have the wires come out from behind the unit without getting pinched by the housing. Hopefully you have not plugged the unit in yet, because I didn't tell you to do that yet. That is the last step after all wiring is connected. You can't test this yet because the unit should be unplugged, and the safety sensors that are down by the floor on both sides of the garage door haven't been wired to the unit yet.
That's where the battery goes. The other side's the controls. Carriage bolt in there.
I'm using the old brackets because they're bolted on, and the new ones are only clip-on. This will be much more secure for the customer. These sensors are not optional, not only because it's code to have them, but they're important because they'll protect people, small kids, animals, cars, etc. from being crushed by a lowered door. How do they work? Well, the sensors project an invisible light beam across the inside of the garage door, and if that beam's broken, like something's in the way of it, the door automatically reverses before hitting anyone or anything. Now the wires are hardwired into the sensors, so this gives you two options for the installation. Option one, you can cut the wires on the sensors and wire the new sensors wire to the old sensors wire that's already run through your garage, or you can rip out all the old and install the new sensors with their wires intact. And since the latter of the two is the professional way to do it, that's the way I'm going to show you. Besides, whoever ran the old wires here didn't do a very neat job. I like things that are neat and professional looking. stapler I'm using was made by TacWise, TACWISE, and it shoots rounded staples. Rounded staples prevent the staple from damaging the wire sheathing, so it doesn't pinch the top of the wire. And I purchased this on Amazon for like $35, and I believe it even came with like 1,000 staples to get me started. It's a great little staple if you're going to be stapling a lot of wires. If you're an electrician or something, or installing, internet or things of that nature. You also get the peace of mind of not having to be concerned with a pinched wire, which that's the most important aspect of this stapler to me. And it's a great little addition to the toolbox. Small price too, $35 isn't a bad price. You'll also notice that I run these wires through the angle iron. I do that to keep it nice and neat. You want to strip these and connect the two colors that are similar together from both lines. Black and black. And then you push the white wire into the white connector and the black into the gray. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to set the time on this thing, and we're just going to push the menu button and then clock setup. So we just hit the enter key. And you can choose positive or negative, the plus or minus, and it'll move around, but you hit the enter key to lock it in. And then let's see what time it is here. It is 1:30. So program 1:30 in here. You just use the plus to go up and minus to go down, and you push the right arrow to get to the minute section, and do the same thing again. Just push plus or minus to make the numbers increase or decrease. And you get this down here to 1:30, and then you push the right arrow again and choose AM or PM, and when you're done, you hit the done button on the left hand side, and it shows you the temperature inside. 60 degrees in here. Nice. My prime operating temperature. Alright, so it's glowing steady amber over here, and it should be green over here, and it is, it's steady green over here. So okay, the sensor lights will illuminate a steady amber and green if everything is working properly. You see the green one here. However, if they're flashing, it means that they're not lined up with each other properly. So you'll need to loosen the wing nut and make a slight adjustment until the lights are steady. If you don't have any lights, that could be a few things. First, you got to check the connections in the motor assembly and ensure the wires are making a good contact and are secure in the connectors up there. Sometimes they come loose. Make sure you didn't pinch a wire with your stapler. And I know this sounds silly, but make sure the unit's plugged in and it actually has power. Put the warning label right over that one. CYA all the way. put your warning labels up. One by the front door and one on the door. This is the entrapment label, letting people know that they could get trapped.
Alright, so the battery's got to go in here, but we got to unplug it first.
Alright, easy peasy, something cheesy. There's little caps on the battery. Just pop them off and put the red wire to the red terminal, which is your positive, and the black wire to the black terminal. That's your negative. And then you slide the battery in and put the cover back on. It's that simple. Now, not all garage door openers come with a battery backup. This particular model does, and that's a nice feature to have. If you got something going on and the power's out, you can still get your car out without having to use that manual release handle. Now, it just so happens to be that this is an elderly woman's home, so she might have a hard time opening the garage door manually. I don't know if she could actually lift it up. So we recommended this one because of the battery backup. This way, even if the power goes out and she needs to leave the home for any reason, or is coming home, she'll be able to at least open and close her garage door a couple times. Re-engage your manual release lever. Try lifting the door manually, and if it don't open, go ahead and test the automatic operation.
Well, you got to set the height now. Okay, as you can see, the door's not all the way up. So you're going to push this adjustment button in, you're going to hold it till that flashes. And then you're going to raise this until you get the door where you want it. Right there. And then you push the adjustment button. And now you push the down button until the door goes down the way you want it. And you push the adjustment button. And it's all programmed. All right, so now we're going to test it. The top button was flashing, so I pushed it and it came up to where I wanted it. Now the down button flashes. We're going to push that and see if it goes down to where we want it. And it does. Now we're going to test it, make sure that it opens and closes properly if there's an obstruction in the way. That's what I'd like to have. Yeah, right there. So I'm going to place that right there and see if it goes back up if it hits it. And yes, it does. I didn't show this on film, but I cut up the old one with a metal cutting wheel and threw it in the trash. Let's test the door.
I have one of the wireless remotes in my hand, and when I click it, it opens back up again. Now we also need to test the operation. I'm going to click this again and stop the door. We have to make sure that on the down cycle that if I walk in front of those beams that it's going to stop the door and reverse it, and it does. And then another important aspect that we need to test is to make sure that it's actually not going to come down at all if there's something in the way. And then you can see the lights flashing and hear them. That's a warning that there's something blocking it. So it works great. Perfect. Now we got to program the exterior keypad, and that's wireless as well.
Okay, now we're going to program the wall-mounted keypad. I'm going to press this button here. It's the learn button. We're going to enter a code. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to hold the enter key down. The light flashed. So it should be programmed. We'll try it. There we go. And the door closes. Now we're going to enter the code. 1, 2, 3, 4. Enter. And the door opens. Now we're just going to mount this on the wall. Alright, so I'll put it right about here. We'll hook this top one on. So, a little tighter. Center it on the door. And put the next screw in. So. Let's try it.
All exterior digital locks like this, keypad locks, you just have to push one button to close it. On this, you push enter and it closes the door. If it was something for your doorknob, you would just have to push like the company logo button or something and it would lock it.
1, 2, 3.
Man, there she goes. Success. We are right in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. Yep, folks, Bucks County, which is where I'm from, Montgomery County, and Philadelphia County have the highest infection rates right now. And for some odder than odd reason, our governor decided it's a good idea to reopen our county. Now, for the record, he closed our county when the numbers were quite low. And that was 2 months ago. We were closed for 2 months. And he opened us up when the numbers were high, the infection rate. Anywho, I'm using ultraviolet light to keep my clients safe. This one is just one more way I'm keeping my customers safe and letting them know I'm taking their safety seriously. Now the purple lights you see, they're only there as a visual reference. So this way you know where the light's shining. And if there was no lights at all, you'd think the thing was broken, not working, right? So the UV light's not something you can see with your human eye, so there has to be some other type of reference. Now UV light's been known to kill all viruses, and it's a great way to say you're safe with Bob's Home Surfaces. Now, I appreciate you watching. I hope you have an awesome day. If you like videos like this, please subscribe, push the thumbs up button, ring the bell so you're alerted when I upload a new video, drop a comment if you like, and share this with your friends. And have a wonderful, wonderful day.